Week 4's readings dealt with 3 chapters from Ketron and 1 chapter from Bowman. I'll start with Bowman's chapter 6. And one of the takeaways from that chapter, and I spoke about it in my response to the chapter in our writing, that the thing that stood out to me about this chapter was, one of the things that stood out was students and their phones, right? And this idea that students can't be trusted with their phones during productions. And I agree that they have issues with their phones, but I feel like this chapter contradicts everything that we're working towards, especially with this sentiment, because we're trying to get them to learn how to be productive members and how to practice autonomy and how to make good decisions as actors, especially at the high school level. And I have experience with this being an issue as a graduate student and being in a production at a college in Michigan. And they were very pressed about people giving up their phones and being ready to go for the show. And it always confused me because, at that point, we're all adults. And I feel like had this been something that they were working on in high school, that it wouldn't have been as big of an issue in the college level, or at the college level, rather. This chapter also talks about getting different set pieces that are reusable, like Muslim flats, floating doors, stairs, acting blocks and cubes. I'm sorry, I said floating doors. I meant freestanding doors and things of that nature. You can repaint them and use them over and over again, and it kind of saves you money. And you have pieces that you can honestly go back to for most productions. For Catron's chapter 8, he talks about vocals and how thinking about vocals not just as, song and, musical accompaniments or even like sound cues that deal with music, but thinking of every aspect of sound within the play, including the actors' voices and whatnot, as a part of the vocal landscape of a play, which I really thought was very interesting. And I feel that there are good points to that, and making sure that you have the right levels with not only sounds that are instrumental, but also sounds from the voices of your actors is important. Chapter 9 is spectacle, and where spectacle is all-encompassing, I really liked how it talked about spectacle being something that is very nuanced, and it can be the audience's perception of the world that you paint, and just every layer of that painting being a part of spectacle. So it being like, oh, okay, so you have different levels of presentational and representational styles of theater. How do you make the audience's experience of those things, and how does your research and your artistry affect the atmosphere in which these things happen? And that is me trying to be as basic as I can in explaining spectacle, because it was a lot and it's very dense, but it was very profound to read. And then the last thing that we did, so it's chapter 9 on spectacle. Chapter 16 in Catron was set design and working on ground plans. And I can say that I have the experience of dealing with ground plans as a set designer, and just seeing how a director looks at ground plans and what a director should be looking for in ground plans was eye-opening, because it makes the way that I look at set designing as a set designer a little bit differently. It makes me want to maybe simplify some things, maybe to put more focus on not just the measurements and where things are, but how the director would move around in these things now. Yeah, so that was chapters 8, 9, and 16 for Catron, chapter 6 for Bowman.